Here's a question that I get asked a lot about recently. That is, if you make about $100,000 a year, how much house can you realistically afford? And they're asking that question because they're seeing home prices continue to rise. They're seeing mortgage rates kind of creeping up a little bit, and there's always the specter of inflation. And here's what's happening. They're seeing that their purchasing power is eroding. So the question is, how much house can one buy on an income of $100,000? Well, let's go find out. Hey, before we do, if we haven't met before, my name is Chris Pucci, and I'm a local lender as well as realtor here in the Kansas City Metro. And I help people just like you make a smooth transition into the Kansas City Metro. And I post videos like this and all about Kansas City. So if you really want to learn about Kansas City, simply subscribe to my channel by tapping on the bell below. So with that all being said, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to show you what the numbers actually look like, including what your realistic monthly payment might be, how debt affects what you can buy, how much you may need for a down payment, and the simple rule lenders use to decide if you qualify. Now, quick question for you, and drop a comment below and tell me what the median home price is in your city right now. Because depending on where you live, $100,000 a year might go a long, long way. Conversely, it may just barely scratch the surface. Now, before we start, I do need to make something very clear. I'm not here to try to convince you to buy a house. There are always people in the comments section saying, typical real estate agent, just trying to make a sale. Well, that's not what this video is about. Honestly, I'm making this video for two reasons. One, I'm frustrated with the affordability crisis that's happening right now. And two, a lot of people are operating under a misconception. So, my goal here is simple. I want to give you the real numbers. Take this information, use it however you want, and hopefully it helps you work towards your goal of home ownership, if that's something you really want. And if you're watching this just to leave a negative comment, you might just want to scroll on, because today we're just focusing on helping people understand the math. So let's get to it. Before you start looking at homes, you should start first by looking at your own finances. And I want you to do a very simple exercise after watching this video, because I think you're going to find it a little eye-opening. It will tell you very quickly whether buying a home might be realistic for you. Because the truth is this, lenders do follow a rule, and that rule determines whether or not they believe you can afford a mortgage. So let's talk about it, and that's called the 28-36 rule. Now, the 28-36 rule is simply a means to give you an idea of how much house you can afford. Again, this is just a general rule of thumb for evaluating affordability. It's a guideline used to measure a borrower's debt-to-income ratio and overall affordability. In actuality, depending on the loan program, such as conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, it's possible you could qualify for more. But this again is an easy way to get an idea of how much house you can afford. Now, there are two rules when using the 28-36 rule. Rule 1, no more than 28% of your gross monthly income should go towards your housing payment. So that means we're talking about principal and interest, property taxes, homeowners insurance, and HOA dues if applicable. Rule 2, no more than 36% of your gross income should go toward all debt. That includes credit cards, installment loans like car loans or personal loans, student loans, your mortgage, and any other monthly debt obligations that you might have. So I'm curious, before watching this video, did you already know about the 28-36 rule? Well, if so, in the comment section below, just put yes or no. I'm curious because most of the people I talk to have never heard of it. And it's one of the easiest ways to determine how much house you can qualify for. So let's break down someone who's making $100,000. If you make $100,000 per year, you want to divide that by 12 months. and that's going to equal about $8,333 per month in gross income. 28% of $8,333 is about $2,333. So ideally, your maximum housing payment should be about $2,300 per month. And that's going to include your principal and interest, your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, and your HOA if applicable. The second rule is what we call the total debt rule. You're going to take 36% of the $8,333, and that's about $3,000. So your total monthly debt, including your mortgage, should not exceed roughly $3,000 per month. So again, that's going to include card payments, credit card payments, student loans, personal loans, as well as your mortgage payment. So let me ask you this. Does that payment surprise you? Because when you heard that someone's making $100,000 a year might only qualify for around $2,300, is that higher or lower than you expected? And if you make around $100,000 a year, what home price do you think you should be able to afford? $250,000, $350,000, $550,000? Drop it in the comments section below because I'm always curious to hear what people have to say. Now, next I'm going to show you something though most people completely miss, and this can destroy your affordability, even if you make $100,000 or more. I'm talking about debt. If your total debt payments are already close to $3,000 per month, you potentially won't get approved. So if you're already near that number, the reality is you're going to have to work on reducing your debt first before you can buy. That might mean paying down credit cards, paying them down, not off, and do not close the account. Paying them off and closing the account has potentially negative ramifications to your credit score. You might have to sell an expensive car or eliminate other monthly payments that you're obligated to. And another barrier to being able to qualify for a home is student debt. Now, I know this sounds very David Ramsey-ish, but the reality is debt is your biggest barrier to affordability. Now, what I want to talk about real life versus lender math. And I say this because lenders calculate affordability using gross income, but you and I, we live on net income. So if you earn $8,333 gross per month, your take home might be around $6,500 to $6,700 after taxes and deductions. Think about it this way. If the mortgage payment's $2,300 and your total debt is $3,000, you may have only around $3,500 left for everything else. Things like groceries, utilities, insurance, gas, phone bills, entertainment. So yes, even at $100,000 income, affordability still matters. So what do you think is the biggest thing preventing people from buying a home right now? Is it interest rates, home prices, debt, or not having enough for a down payment? Do me a favor in the comment section below, just put an A, B, C, or D based on your opinion. There's two other things that we want to talk about that lenders focus on. One's credit score, the other's down payment. Now, a lot of people believe that you need 20% down to buy a home. Well, that's actually not true. Actually, there are some loan programs that will give you 100% financing, VA and USDA. Other programs like conventional loans, you can get away with 3% down, and FHA 3.5% down. Now, if you go conventional and you put down less than 20%, you're also going to have to pay what's called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. That is an additional cost that's going to be part of your house payment. If you're going FHA, you're also going to have PMI, but the difference is this. It's lower than typically the conventional, but it's always there for the life of the loan, whereas with conventional, at some point it can actually drop off. So that's just another number that you need to factor into your monthly payment. If your credit needs some help, or maybe a lot of help, don't let that stop you though from pursuing your dream of owning a home, because there are many ways to build up your credit easily without actually having to engage a third party to help you. Now, if you want to learn more about that, then set up a time for us to chat. You can do it by calling, texting, emailing, or better yet, schedule a Zoom call. So what I want to do right now is I want to run a realistic example. So in our example, let's assume you make $100,000. You're going to put down the minimum, $3,000. You've got no debt and you have great credit. So using a typical mortgage calculator, you could potentially afford a home of around $350 to $375, depending on taxes, insurance, and interest rate. Your payment might be around $2,200 to $2,400 per month. But watch what happens if we add $700 in monthly debt. Now, suddenly your affordability drops. Instead of qualifying for a $350,000 plus home, you may only qualify for something closer to $265,000. That, my friends, is the power of debt. So for example, here in Kansas City, the Kansas City Metro median house price is about $270,000 to $275,000 in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, it's about $450,000 on the Johnson County side in Kansas. So, somebody earning $100,000 a year might comfortably afford something around the Metro, but many will still struggle to afford the typical Johnson County home without either a larger down payment or they're making a little more money. So, here's a takeaway. When you're buying a home on a $100,000 salary, is it possible? Yes, absolutely. But it's still going to depend on your debt, your credit score, your down payment, and where you choose to live. Because income alone doesn't determine affordability, but debt certainly does. So to really understand and get a clear picture of what you can afford, that typically requires a conversation with a lender. And remember, in addition to being a realtor, I am a lender. So if you want to find out how much house you can qualify for, set up a time and together we can determine what you would qualify for. You can call, text, email, or again, set up a Zoom call. Look, I hope you found this video helpful. And if so, please share it and like it. And by all means, please subscribe to the channel. So that way you can see all the things that are happening in this great town of Kansas City. So thank you for watching, and until then, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.